That was the nicest intro ever. I am not a resident fashion expert. Look at what this lady is wearing.
Good morning.
I think we know who the fashion expert is.
Hi.
Hi. So talk to me about the 5 things that everyone needs to have in their closet for fall. Let's just get going with it. Fall, winter, fall, winter.
Fall, winter. Well, what's helpful for me are things that help me get up in the morning and get ready really early and really quickly and get on with my day. And that's how I design for women. So how can I make people's lives easier? That would be a trench coat, which doubles as a dress. Super Angelina Jolie, very sexy when worn with nothing underneath. Right? So our company kind of focuses and concentrates on what we call desk to dinner, which I'm sure you're very familiar of. So trench coat is great. A men's blouse. Very important to buy one that fits a little too snug so you can wear it sexy, and then one that's oversized.
You mean like a men's shirt, like
Remember
kind of more
Sharon
boxy?
Stone wearing her husband's shirt to the Oscars? Yes. That's the look I'm talking about. She tied it. She's super tiny, so I don't necessarily tie mine, but yes.
Yes. Okay.
And they really go a long way for you. I buy mine that are in a non-stretch, which really works. 5 specifically, huh?
Mm-hmm. Or you could do 7.
I really love a men's trouser. I wear them under everything. So this is a little coat that we did that on other people is a dress. So I like having men's trousers worn under dresses, under skirts, and of course as trousers. I also think about designing in the way that I pack. So when you pack, you take your favorite things, right? That's how I like to try to design. What are your favorite things? And that's really how someone should be stocking her wardrobe.
How do you know when to purge and what to purge?
Well, you should never purge. I don't think that's
I love
healthy.
You. I have the same philosophy. I just buy more racks.
Okay, what do you want to purge on? You want to purge on the things that work really well for you. Again, back to what do you pack? You pack your favorite things, right? Because you're in a hurry and you know you need to look really good quickly. So for me, that's a turtleneck and a blazer. That rounds out that 5 for you. And those I do buy in multiples.
And what?
Buy and design in multiples.
I love turtlenecks, so you design them. What other brands do you like?
Oh, I love so many brands. I mean, I've been working in the industry since I was 14, and I've had my own business for about 12 years. And so it becomes a community of friends. And Vera Wang is a close friend, and the Marquesa designers are close friends. I respect what other designers do because I know how difficult it is. Where am I going when I look for a turtleneck? I'm probably going on a website called Ukes, which is an outlet, an Italian outlet. Things that stand the test of time. It doesn't matter if it's a few seasons old, which that product is, and that's where I get most of my product that I don't get for myself.
Oh, that's actually a really good idea. I'm like, ukes.com.
Yeah,
file that one away.
Great sales.
What have you learned over the 12 years of running your own business?
I have learned that you can't do everything, and I truly believe that there's no such thing as balance. I think you're doing one really good thing at a time, and you have to be okay that something else will probably lag or probably, quote-unquote, suffer. I don't necessarily consider it suffering if you're focusing and you're present and you're fixing a problem or you're being creative or you're being with your children or your loved ones. Something will always miss out. So you have to also be okay with people not liking you. It's very important to take risks if you want a big reward. And those that are unwilling or scared to take a risk will never have the reward that they probably hope for.
What's been the biggest risk you've taken with your own company?
Well, starting it, for one, I didn't want to use my name. I wanted to call it something else. There's just fear involved in the unknown. I fought to get my name back when my partners tried to take my name. Lots of different things. Every day there presents something that could be a challenge. Your production doesn't want to ship because you haven't sold enough units, and yet you've already sold it and stores are expecting it. You have to figure out what's the most important in that moment. How do you solve that? But solve it in a manner that you continue to have clients and you continue to have trust. So you have to use both sides of your brain. And when you're a designer, you just want to use a creative.
And you have to
And you can't.
Yeah. I want to bring up some of your clients. I mean, you've had some pretty incredible people wear your clothes, and I think none other, or no one better than Michelle Obama. What was that like for you? Because I know she never notifies people ahead of time when she's going to wear something.
That's
You literally
right.
turn on the TV and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, how incredible is she? She is the perfect example of someone that my brand and I personally would want to dress, a woman that is working really hard and she dresses with grace and dignity. I mean, imagine being that heavily scrutinized and in what you wear, not even what your internal content is. And when I found out that she wore us, I think it was 2009, 2008. And so, of course, over the moon, so happy. But what really struck me is that she bought it off the rack. And so she's making very deliberate choices to help smaller brands, to help smaller American companies, and also very specific when she goes to foreign countries to be respectful and specific to where she's at.
How did you find out that she was wearing you? What was the process?
Well, Stacy, maybe, if she's here, my PR, she probably sent me a picture, or someone in the staff sent me a picture. And then the next question is, how can we get her more stuff?
And you're like, you can't.
You can't technically, but you can always design with her in mind. And that's been quite successful. I've dressed her a little over 20 times over the 8 years.
Wow, congratulations. I had no
Thank
idea it was that
you.
many times.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. It is amazing, yeah.
When you say you designed with her in mind, talk me through the process. What do you keep in mind?
Well, anytime I start a collection, probably many designers, you have a muse in mind to help you move through all of the many steps that it takes to start from point A to a final sample. And you can lose yourself in the creativity, and you can lose yourself in the wonderment of it, and all of these fascinating, really magical things that can happen with being creative. You can lose the business side, and you know that in many ways is considered a bad word or a bad connotation in the creative business. So for me, what I did, I kept the why. Why is this woman wearing it? How does she need to feel? And when you have someone like Michelle Obama as your standard and your platform that you want to try to achieve, the why always raises up with each and every decision you make, so that you can stay creative, but there's a purpose for it. And I think that it's very modern, and especially young people are very interested in purpose-driven profit. Businesses that, yes, make a profit, like Feed, for example, Lauren Bush Lauren, where she's doing good, and there is a for-profit purpose. And yeah.
How do you start a collection? Obviously there's a timetable that you have to fulfill. So
That
it's not like
keeps
it's in
you
a
on
vacuum.
calendar. I think many of us would probably never be done and always trying to be tweaking something, so a calendar does help. But it's just something you feel. So I imagine it to be like people in another industry where you kind of get on this collective, right? So now certain trends that people might be seeing a lot are shoulders being exposed, and then that opens up to different ways that you can wear a shoulder from off the shoulder to a cold shoulder, animal motifs. It is something that you see it and you get inspired, and then you want to try it in your way, lots of solids and brights. And so you start with a feeling. And for me personally, and at my brand, we always have to hit the why and then the how, so that we're making sure we're still designing for our customer and have that woman in mind. But then all the fun stuff starts. The prints come in, and in the garment center, there's lots of people that walk around with rolly suitcases. Many of those suitcases are filled with prints, and you get to go through prints and colors, and then imagine shapes and silhouettes in them. From there, I go to fabric, and do the fabrics stand up and withhold the prints that you've selected, and embellishment. And then for me personally, I bring in people that can help me evaluate what's the cost of all of this. And from there, I go to silhouettes, and from silhouettes, I go to my pattern makers and try to figure out what can actually be done. And then it goes to first sample.
Wow, that sounds so easy. Sounds like anyone could do it.
What's easy is when you pick something that you have a passion for, it really doesn't feel like work. What's difficult is figuring out the business side of it. And so I have to surround myself with men and women, mostly women, that are much smarter than I am in areas that I don't excel. And that's how I've really been able to have a business.
And obviously a big part of the business, of any fashion business, I think these days, is the red carpet. And we're getting into award season now. So what are your predictions for what we're going to see this year? Well, not just this year, but going into Oscars in February.
Right, yeah, we have a few months of constant red carpets.
And people calling stuff in. I mean, that's how it works, right? That stylists call you up
That's
and say,
how it works. Well, the shows
Rachel,
that just happened, now the stylists are looking at those samples that just went down the runway and they're trying them on their clients. The interesting thing for me as a designer, I always wish that the celebrities, movie stars took more risk and had a little more fun with fashion, and I'm sure New Yorkers feel the same way, but they're not risk takers. So we will definitely see a mermaid strapless.
God, that's still going to be, that's never going to go away, is it?
It should,
But it never will.
No, because it makes women feel safe, and so, you know, their first priority isn't fashion, and I don't think it should be. You know, when you go to a movie, you want to escape, and you want to be mesmerized by whatever the story is, whatever you've chosen, whether it's humor, which I think humor solves everything in the world, and I think we take ourselves a little too seriously, or, you know, it's your favorite actress or young person. My brother is the film curator of the MoMA, and so I get to hear about his top picks. And there's one called Lion coming up.
I saw that. It's incredible.
There you go. I guess he knows what he's doing. I can't wait to see it.
Oh
I
my
can't
God, Nicole Kidman. I mean, just Dev Patel and Nicole Kidman, they are ravishing.
Well, and the little boy, he was the one that, he was outstandingly
Little boy who grows on to be played by
That's
Dev
right.
Patel.
Yeah. And Tom Ford's movie, I'm looking forward
Just
to
saw
seeing.
that.
And so in the case of a movie or film, I think costume and design is so important in storytelling. I'm not as interested, and you know, not to be Debbie Downer, but I'm not as interested on the story that's told on the red carpet. I'm interested in the story that's told through the power of film, and then what do we take in our personal lives, and how do we take that inspiration? However, we will see a strapless, we'll see some, we probably won't see any prints because people are super safe. We will definitely see off the shoulder, maybe some variation of solid brights, since we saw some of that in Paris. And hopefully we'll see some animal motifs. That's been pretty strong.
Do you think that the day of the nude dress with just like the barely there sequins is over? Please say yes.
The see-through dress?
Yes.
It should be over because fashion should continue to push forward and push forward. The reason that it's not is because it makes women feel sexy. And I think that actresses in particular, or maybe all women, want to feel sexy. And so they go to the kind of brainless way to get there. And some are gorgeous, some are fun, and then others are just a little too mundane.
You're like trying too hard, I think.
Yeah, but that also goes into your hair and your makeup and all the selections you make. I think you want to be effortless. It takes a lot of effort sometimes to look that way. But you want to be, most importantly, you want to be authentic, and you want to take whatever it is that your actual job is very seriously.
And before we go to the audience, I wanted to talk to you about your philanthropy, because I know you do a lot of good stuff.
Thank you for asking about that. Yes, it's very important to me. So when I brought up young people, I have a 16-year-old, I have an 8-year-old, and I find that just naturally, it's almost like breathing. They're interested in giving back, and it's not a challenge. I brought my 16-year-old to India a few months ago, and we met a woman that saved 8,000 sex traffickers, and they're all her age. And so it's a little half Indian girl, my daughter Ava, meeting Indian girls also, well, much younger, unfortunately, to about 16 or 17. And as a parent, I don't even have to speak. I don't even have to open my mouth. The lessons are being taught. And I saw a little girl sketching in the corner, and I bought some of her sketches for the same price I would buy them from the people that roll around in New York. And you know, where you can help to provide jobs, that's what I try to do. So I have a platform called Kindness is Always Fashionable, where I provide jobs in third world. But for those of us that can't provide jobs, teaching people ideas on how to get a job. So in India, what do you do with a group of 16-year-olds that have been so horrifically treated their entire lives? Well, you look at what they're doing. So some were sketching, some were doing henna, which is also forms of artistry, and you try to give suggestions on how they continue to make jobs for themselves and find some freedom. So thank you for asking about that. It's super important to me.
I know it is. And what kind of questions did they ask you when you're there?
Well, there's all the fun stuff, like they wanted to dance at first and then laugh. They mainly wanted to dance with Ava. But then they just wanted to know what America is like. And so when you have this great gift of living in America and all the freedom that it allows, the freedom of being able to get a job, being able to be a woman and wear whatever you want and be safe for the most part, those things are all fascinating to them. And for me, if I can help them find a voice, it's very important for me to teach women and children in those areas how to just physically use your voice, whether it's screaming if someone is hurting you, whether it's stating your opinion, and that's okay to have an opinion if you have good intent, because we all make mistakes. And so just that one-on-one, very much what I imagine, what is it called? The Boys and Girls Club, just being a mentor.
And letting them know that there's something else out there.
Absolutely.
And let's go to our audience, please.
Hello, Rachel.
Hi.
I wanted to know what fashion trends from the past you wish could be brought back, and I also wanted to know, going forward in the future of fashion, what fashion trends do you think will be most popular?
That's a great question. I'm heavily influenced by women from the 1930s and the 1940s, in particular Ava Gardner and Tallulah Bankhead, and I've named my daughters after both of them. And not necessarily who they were personally, because we don't know. We don't have as much access to the internet. Thank God, they were allowed to have a private life, but who they portrayed and who they wanted us to know. So those women were strong. For me, they were equal parts beautiful, feminine, sexy, but also strong. And I feel back then you were allowed to be that way. At least in cinema, you were, and many female actresses got top billing over great male leads. So that's a time that I love, when all men wore suits and had a bit of dignity. It's just, I could wake up just as anxious as the next person, but when I take a little time to take my own advice and put on some pieces that I've designed, you do stand up a bit taller and you do feel better about yourself when the dress fits you perfectly. And you remember what's beautiful about life. At least people that love fashion can use that as a tool to remember what's beautiful about life. And what I hope to see is something that I put on the runway just a few months ago and had a little pushback, actually, from some people. I put a turban on every single look that went down the runway. And I did that intentionally. I think it frames the face beautifully, and it shows off your earrings, it shows off your makeup. I have a lot of fun with makeup. But even larger, on a larger scale, I think that it quickly brings a woman to dignity and grace and a regalness. But it also cuts through so many barriers of stereotypes that we have of people that wear turbans. And so for me, I like, hopefully not anyway, in a pushy way to get across my ideas of acceptance, but in a beautiful, elegant, very fashionable way. I like to get my point across. So I would like to see more fashion worn that is multicultural.
That's a pretty damn good goal. And next question, please.
Hi, Rachel. My question is.
Hi.
Hi. My question is: do you think now the most of clothing brands are overpriced? And what's your advice for women to shop outfit reasonably, while meanwhile keeping fashionable and elegant?
That is such a good question because it's twofold. I've been to the factories since the late 90s working in fashion, and some of them are so horrifically upsetting when you go different parts of the world, and you realize how long they're working, and you realize the hours they're working. So there's that. There's the issue of paying a fair wage to someone that's sewing your clothes, and how many clothes do we need? There's that issue. And then there's the issue of things not being overpriced, so we can actually afford it, and so members of my family can afford it. My clothes are in Macy's, and that's quite expensive for many people in my family. So how do you balance the two? You have to do it very mindfully, and you have to do it with good intent, and you have to do it, sure, with intent of profit. But unless, for me anyway, unless there's purpose, real purpose and passion in making the profit, I'm not interested in it. And it might be a much slower burn and a longer ride, but I very much care about the people sewing the clothes. And it's difficult to maintain that, and who's going to watch it all the time? You know, you pay agents to watch it, but are the agents being paid by the people owning the factories? It's a serious problem.
And last question.
We're going to take our final question from an online viewer. So
Okay.
Laura would like to know, what advice would you give to an aspiring fashion entrepreneur just starting out?
Well, intern, and it's not really about paying your dues as much as it is about learning. So when you intern, even in departments that you might not be interested in, for example, marketing or production, you can eventually learn enough knowledge to either A, start your own company if that's your desire, or make yourself super helpful in a company where perhaps you were hired as receptionist even. I mean, I've used interns' design ideas that have ended up on the runway years ago when I first started out and really had to depend on my interns. So that would be my advice. My other piece of advice would be you can go on a website called the CFDA. .com, and every designer that you don't recognize is who you should be applying for, because there's more of a chance that you can get a better position.
That is stellar advice. The CFDA is pretty amazing.
Very
Thank you
helpful.
so much for being here, and I know you have a book out, so before we go, tell us about the book and where we can buy it.
The book is called Design Your Life, and it's the idea that with every decision we make, whether it's a very small decision or a very large decision, you are completely in charge of designing your life. So the decision of whether or not to be happy, whether or not to, everything's in there, but also the design process and how I get to that, and then suggestions on what works for me, and hopefully they'll work for other women too, style-wise.
And Amazon or whatever,
yes,
any
yes.
bookstore.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you.